Well, I've been hoping to get my next guest on for a while now because of how well the Mets have been playing. But just as I was getting ready to book her for the show, the team has taken a turn for the worse over the last few games. From a big name injury to their first losing streak in 4 weeks, we've got a lot to get to. Joining me now is Gabrielle Raucci. Gab, welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. So, Gab, there's still a lot of season left, and I still have a lot of faith, but this Kodai Senga injury makes you wonder and worry a little bit. After missing almost all of 2024, he comes back stronger than ever this year, but as luck would have it, he's out with a hamstring injury. Now, the entire pitching staff has been great this year, so should fans be worried about their ace being sidelined?
I wouldn't say worried. I think, Kodai Senga has demonstrated, especially over the course of this season, just how dominant he is. He is, in fact, a creature of habit and he is a perfectionist. So I wouldn't say that this, and I would call it a silver lining in terms of injuries in sports and how they go. But a grade one hamstring strain, especially considering the injury that he had faced and was sidelined with all of 2024. I wouldn't call it something to be worried about, especially given the 14-day reevaluation timeline that Carlos Mendoza told the media um, on the during the Rays series that they just had over the weekend. But same thing, I would say, especially with how the injury occurred. He had felt it on the misstep that he might have had before he went up to jump to catch that errant throw from Pete Alonso at the first base um, bag itself. He kind of misstepped before he went up to go catch the ball, play the ball, or whatever. But again, even with considering the injury and how those kinds of things go, I wouldn't say that he couldn't come back for it and come back from it, I should say, rather soon.
Well, here's the other thing. The Mets, it's the first time they got swept by the Rays this past weekend. It's the first time they lost three in a row since May 20th, and the first time they've gotten swept all season. Talk about what went wrong on the field and how much of the poor play do you think has to do with Senga being out? Could that be getting to their heads?
I definitely would say, as this Mets group is very tight knit, that if we're going to call it, informally, that the vibes were off. I think that was definitely something that maybe they could have expected, or something that even fans had seen on the field, right? There's a little bit of a somberness that comes with having somebody that is so involved with and so reliant and supportive of their teammates, like Kodai Senga, being sidelined. But realistically speaking, what happened on the field, and it was more or less the pitching staff that unraveled in this series. I mean, not to say that the bats weren't, say, completely flat, but that first game with Clay being limited to 85 pitches after some soreness from his last outing at Coors Field, he held the Rays to a one run ball for 5 innings, and then you know Blackburn and Kranick let it unravel in the sixth, giving up 6 runs, and the offense didn't come back from that either. So there was a lot of things that kind of went wrong. I'd say game two, Tyler McGill, who had been dominant through April and May, has really been struggling with his command. His fastball is off, and he's not leaning on it, which is, I guess, a good thing if it's off. But at the same time, right, you only had production from our baby Mets, Brett Beatty, local favorite, if you will, and Ronnie Mauricio, who's back from his ACL injury this season as well. But again, they couldn't get it done. They lost 8-4 in the second game, even though Tyler McGill, he only went, I want to say, 3 innings. He had 5 strikeouts, and he walked, uh, I'd say probably less than he actually has in his recent outings, but still 6 runs in only 3 innings is, it's frankly egregious, even though, Tyler McGill has been quite dominant. And then game three, right, Griffin Canning, who has unfortunately been on the decline in his last couple of starts. He was so dominant in the beginning, um, giving up 6 runs to the Rays, issuing 5 walks over only 4 innings. But it's not completely on him, right? It's not entirely on this pitching staff. The bats were dead in this series. In the first game, I think they went 2 for 16 with runners in scoring position, and then they held that lead for 5 and gave it up, unfortunately, due to the relief. But in the second game, too, 0 for 7 with runners in score, or no, sorry, that was the third game. 0 for 7 with runners in scoring position. It's like things have been clicking in the Colorado Rockies series and in the National series. They were hitting a lot. They were doing a lot of situational hitting, and there was that power, but just didn't show. And I think the Rays were a sneaky good team. I think that it wasn't necessarily, completely on them being outplayed, but they're just, and it showed in the series, right? It showed in the line score that the Rays were just playing a little bit better this weekend.
It was really weird to see the Mets falter like that, considering they've been so good all year. It's something we're used to in years past, but this year it was weird to see. Your take on Juan Soto so far this year? A lot of Mets players have had tough first years before finding themselves with the Mets, Beltran, Lindor. But the difference is the Mets are paying Soto $51 million a year. Do you think he's finally starting to find himself, and will he live up to the contract eventually?
Absolutely. I think Juan Soto, as his reputation stands, as known for his dominant plate discipline. He sees pitches like, I mean, the best of the best do. You know what I mean? He's our generation's Ted Williams, if you will. I want to say too, and I don't want to misspeak, but especially having been down in spring training and hearing him talk about wanting to improve his game, I don't want to go and say that hitting isn't his MO this season, but at the same time, he's known for being a power hitter, but he wants to improve on all facets of the game. So especially considering him having spent time in the pitching lab in spring training to work on his throwing, and with his eyes set on a gold glove this season, I wouldn't say that he's not trying to produce at the same level that he always has, but I do think that maybe taking your foot off the pedal and focusing more on those other facets of the game to really elongate, because this is a 15-year contract. So the longevity of his ability is very important for him to consider, right? It's staying at the top of the game across the board. So I think that, and I mean, the numbers show for it. In his last 10 games, he's batted 343 with a on-base percentage of 511. That is incredible. 12 hits, 2 home runs, 5 RBI, and 11 runs scored. That is him producing at, the level that he's known for. So I don't think that there is any reason for anybody to be concerned about Juan Soto. And if you were to ask me, he looks pretty happy to be a Met. I know that's been a topic of the media lately, but especially, the adjustments, and think baseball is a game of adjustments. So for him to come in and not be hitting a home run in every single at-bat is not something that is out of the ordinary. And again, something in a place like New York where the spotlight is so bright, he has been, right, I think in the last 10 games, it was something like 12 walks. He's an on-base machine. So for people to consider, the impact that he's had on the runs scored, right? And not for nothing, people also don't want to pitch to him, right? There are pitchers in the game who are trying to pitch around him, whether to put the ball in play for a double play or whatever, but they also don't want to pitch to Pete Alonso either. So for him being in the lineup, especially in the 1 through 4, right, what he's doing is getting on base and advancing runners, and he's working counts, and he's not without power. There's a lot to say about, balls dying at the warning track in this change of weather. I might sound like a conspiracy theorist in saying that, but especially with Andrew McCutchen coming out saying yesterday that he spoke to somebody in MLB who stated that the stitches on the ball are a little bit higher this year, causing them to not go the distance, and things of, if we could talk about launch angle, exit velo, things like that. For the average ball that Juan Soto hits, especially in this last series, typically exceed 400 feet. So, right, there's some conspiracy behind that. But the Mets have the highest hard hit percentage in MLB, regardless of what that might show in the box score. But Juan Soto is being Juan Soto, and I don't think that he's going to be stopping anytime soon. He looks pretty locked in, if you ask me.
Great take. Now, very quickly, important games coming up with the Braves and Phillies. How make or break will those division matchups be for the Mets?
I think especially considering that they're only 2.5 games ahead of the Phillies in the NL East, seeing them this upcoming weekend is going to be it's going to be exciting. I don't want to say that the Mets are, a surefire team. I don't believe in making sweeping generalizations in that sense. I think they have some things that they can improve on. But at the same time, I think the Mets they're surpassing all of I'd say a lot of fans' expectations this season. They have been, and I will say that the losses don't necessarily sting as hard as maybe they used to, because they are collectively a really great team. They're playing complete baseball. And even when, you have those one-off games, those one-off series, and hopefully it doesn't happen against the Braves, a division rival. Um, but they haven't been as dominant and maybe as daunting in previous years this season. Not to say that anything can't happen, but for the Mets to kind of get back into the groove and then carry that momentum into Philly, I think is going to be a true testament to how they have been playing resiliently this whole season. So hopefully, they gain some momentum back. I think this sweep is something that maybe realigned the objectives and making sure that you're just getting people into the position to score and to not maybe rely on the pitching so much as dominant as it's been. And I'm hoping that that's maybe one of the things that they address is, while the pitching's been dominant, you hold the line score for the opposing team so low, you can't win without producing some runs too.
Great insight as always. Gabrielle Raucci, thanks so much for taking the time. Always a pleasure, and let's go Mets.
Let's go, Mets.